Harpreet, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start then with your definition of high performance.
I think if anyone knows me and knows me quite well, I think they'll probably think Harpreet's always in high performance mode. I think if you're going to do something, like put 110% in. But for me, high performance actually means something different for everybody because we're all unique, right? And we've all got different natural abilities. So my high performance isn't going to look the same as yours, even if we're both putting 110% in. If we relate it to sport, for example, there's no way I would ever be a top footballer, even if I did the same training as someone else that's good in that field. So I think for me, high performance is just striving to be the best version of yourself, putting 110% in, and whatever it is in your niche or your industry, priming yourself from every single element that you can to be able to achieve your best. So whether that's, nutrition, reflection, taking time out for yourself, or absolutely motoring on, only you will know what high performance means for you. And I guess that's my definition of it.
Which plays in nicely to something that we talk about often on the High Performance podcast, which is world-class basics. Because we think that lots of people are walking around feeling they're not high performance because they think high performance is such a difficult target to reach. It's almost like this intangible thing that no matter what they do, they're not going to get there. The truth is, world-class basics, or as you said, just really excelling in every tiny area in your life can get you closer to high performance. And probably the ultimate definition is happiness. So when did you realize that? When did you work out that dedication and discipline and consistency and hard work married with a real sort of sense of purpose is actually what high performance is?
I think maybe going back to when I was around 18, 19, I started university in Leeds in marketing and advertising management, but I really wanted a job. I really just wanted to get out of the house, to be honest. I wanted to start earning my own money. And I got a job as a cashier in a bank. And I don't know what it was, but I just really loved it because it was my first opportunity to kind of get out there in the big wide world, speak to customers. And I suddenly got this real knack for it. And I remember skipping my lunch break because I wanted to reach my sales targets. And that's when it started clicking. And as I saw like my colleagues around me thinking, whoa, like this girl is on fire. She's already being put up for promotions, like faster than we've kind of seen before. And that's when it started clicking that actually, if you enjoy something, you're passionate about it, and you really kind of put your foot on the pedal, you're going to achieve results faster. So then instead of going back to university the traditional way and completing my second and third year, I decided to, instead of doing uni the traditional way, I studied from home and completed my degree that way full time, as well as working my way up the retail banking ladder full time, because I didn't want to have to wait for either. I wanted to keep climbing up the world of work, and I wanted to get my degree, and I wasn't prepared to let either go. So I just absolutely hammered my way through.
So tell us about that, because that to me is about a capacity to bend time then, that you're working full time and progressing and still doing really well, because you got a first, didn't you, university?
I did,
as well. So tell us about how you managed to maintain excellence in both of them.
To be honest with you, I think two things. One, I was younger than I am now. I'm 30 now, but I know that I'm a little slower than I was what I was back then. I really wish I had the same energy.
Really?
I really do, yeah. I don't know where it came from.
Tell us.
I was just so laser focused. I just didn't care about anything else other than reaching my goals and being the best at everything. And I don't know if back then it was actually fed more from a place of, I want to be the best. And I want that satisfaction. Whereas I think as you get older a little bit, there's a bit more acceptance where you can't be the best at everything all of the time, because it also might not make you happy. So you've got to pursue goals that are true to you, that make you feel good. But back then I don't have kids now, but I didn't have children. I didn't have any extra responsibilities. I'm living with my parents. I've got nothing else to do. So of course I'll fill my time with work, because at the time I just didn't see anything else was worth doing.
Perhaps no one else thought, but many people don't do that. They don't fill their time with work. They fill their time with going out and socialising and all those other things. Was that not on your radar?
I think that's probably going to come back to my childhood and like the household that I was brought up in. I'm so glad that my dad was this way, but he was actually really, really strict. I wasn't allowed to go out. I wasn't really in an environment where I had the opportunity to go and enjoy these social events. I grew up in Birmingham. I was then lifted from that space that I was comfortable in at 11, 12 years old up to West Yorkshire, which was a completely different vibe altogether. They were worlds apart at the time, or for me at that young age they were. So I guess that was just my little life, my little world. There was nothing else going on at the time. I didn't really have the opportunity to go out and do social things, so why not just work instead?
So tell us about friendships then. Like, because that sounds like quite a traumatic experience to be lifted at 11 when you're just about to go to high school and transported to a different part of the country where you have no social network or anything. So, and yet what struck me when you were describing that experience at the bank was that other people were seeing this girl on fire, and it didn't seem to bother you that they might be jealous or they might be envious of you. So tell us about your relationships that you have outside of your family.
So growing up, I was actually a really shy child, which is hard to believe because I'm pretty confident now. My nickname was Bookworm. I used to just bury my head in a book. So even back in Birmingham, like I was not the loudest character. I come from like a full-on Punjabi family, so there's always a big character in the room. But I was actually the shy one. My parents loved that because I was the sensible one. I just got on with it. I buried my head in books. And I had my friends at school, but I wouldn't say withdrawn, but I guess kept myself to myself. Not because I was unhappy or anything, but we all have a certain nature, I guess, when you're born. Right, we're all a little bit different. So when I actually got moved to West Yorkshire, I did find that difficult at the time because as a kid, I didn't know anyone. I wasn't really able to go and explore those friendships outside of school. So I guess you could say I was like pretty isolated at that age. And then fast forwarding to then, I think where I grew in confidence, which was at the bank and getting to actually meet like lots of people from different backgrounds, it just kind of started to click that actually this is kind of fun. I like talking to people. I like learning new things. It didn't even enter my mind that people would ever get jealous or anything. And I don't think they did. But that's not something that's ever bothered me, is what other people's emotions are, because I've got my own to handle. I'm going to look after me. Yeah. So that's not bothered me.
So can we just zero in on this idea of, because I'm fascinated that you say that's where I got my confidence from, because confidence is built on evidence. So what kind of evidence were you getting that gave you the confidence to go out there and be sociable, go after your goals, to go and pursue your ambitions?
I think just really basic. So I think back in the day, it was targets. So I guess this goes back to the world of work, and I guess that's why I'm so driven and it gets me going. We had targets. You had to book a certain number of appointments from customers and have those conversations and put yourself out there, gain that customer's trust and book them in to see a personal banker. And I used to smash those targets. I absolutely loved it. And I remember my manager sitting me down and saying, "You are one of the best cashiers we've like ever taken on." And that was my moment. I thought, okay, I'm going to go for this. I'm like really going to show everyone what I'm made of. And I was just, I think, unstoppable from there.
So what's interesting is you would never say your passion was being a cashier, right?
No.
But actually what we find from a lot of these conversations is it doesn't actually matter often what your passion is. To really go all in with it and just to give it absolutely everything you've got, then you actually find a different kind of passion. You find the passion that comes from a sense of reward. And it feels to me like whatever it is that you would do or were doing, then by going all in, you realise the benefit and the value of it. So what do you say to people who say to you, "I haven't got the time for that, life's busy"? Because you managed to find time to get a first and work full time and get promotions.
You do have time. But if you find yourself making the excuse of "I don't have time," I think you probably don't care about it enough or want it enough. I'm a driven person, and I know if I really want something, I will get it, and I will get the job done. But if I relate it to other areas of my life, for example, fitness, okay, I've always wanted to be like this really like fit person. I want to be really healthy. I want to go to the gym 5 times a week, and I'll manage it for a while, but then I'll always dip because for me, work is my passion and I'll prioritize that over going to the gym. So instead of me having that excuse for myself and thinking, oh, I don't have time, actually, I probably don't care or want it bad enough because I'm prioritizing something else. And I think it is difficult because I feel like we're told a lot these days, oh, find your passion in life. What are you passionate about? Follow your passion. What if you're not passionate about anything or you just really don't know? And actually the alternative is deal with what could you get into possibly, see if you enjoy it. And if you do, go full whammy.
See the value in giving everything to whatever it is you're in, I think is a good bit of advice for people, right?
Agreed. Give it a good go. And that's the only way that you'll know, actually, I'm having a really good time here, or this definitely isn't for me, so I'm going to change my direction. And that's fine too. I think there's a lot of pressure on following a certain career or having to stick things out. There's also a lot of, it takes a lot of courage to also know when to exit a situation or to change direction, because you have to put your ego to the side as well.
Go on, say more about that.
So obviously with banking, I'd worked my way up and I became a bank manager. I think I was 23 maybe at the time. I'd gone to a really cool leadership program. There's only 4 people in the country on it. My dad was super proud. But I wanted to go sell waffles from a stand with my sister, and I just suddenly changed my mind. From an outside perspective, people probably don't fully understand that. What, you've got a great career going in banking. Why on earth are you going to go give that up and go and sell waffles and ice cream from a stand in a shopping centre? That doesn't make sense. But I just firmly believe that if you change your mind, it's okay, because at least you've looked back and you thought, I've given it a go. Because you've always got a backup option. I could easily have walked back into banking if setting up my own business wasn't for me. But I had to put my ego to the side to do that, because to go from being a bank manager and managing a team to then standing there making waffles 7 days a week and handing out flyers from a stand is a completely different direction. So I do believe you have to put your ego to the side.
And can you tell us how you deal with self-doubt? Because there's no way that you made this decision and then you are standing there and you're handing out flyers, and maybe you had a quiet day on the stand, or maybe you had a bit of a row with your sister or whatever, and you're suddenly thinking, have I really given everything up for this?
Still think that now.
How do you deal with those little voices that come into your head? Because the person that we see before us now seems and feels so confident, so laser focused, but you must have doubts, Harps.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody does. Anyone that says they don't, they're either lying or they found a really, really good way to overcome every single one of them. And I'm not going to lie, I feel like the position I'm in now, doubts don't then affect my performance or affect my efforts towards something. I think at the beginning, earlier on, sure, when you first set up a business, being completely honest, sitting here, we didn't make any money for a good 6 to 12 months. We didn't pay ourselves a single penny. And I remember having to borrow money from our mum to pay staff. And that's embarrassing, right? You've just given up a career in retail banking and you're now going to your parents asking for money to pay for your team. So yes, you do have those doubts, but I believe that the most successful people find a way to push past those doubts and keep going. Because no matter what situation you're in, personal, professional, things are not going to go smoothly 100% of the time. You're going to get hit from every single angle possible. And we've experienced that many times. And whether that results in financial loss or a hit to your ego or there's a huge customer complaint, whatever it is, no day is going to be the same in anyone's life, because there's just always something that crops up. But you can either let that affect you negatively and think, okay, am I good enough for this? And I've had that before, imposter syndrome, what am I doing here? Am I good enough for this? And I think at the beginning, I found a way to kind of fake that confidence. I thought, no, I'm going to fake it till I make it. And it really did work for me for a while. And I guess I've just managed to believe my own thoughts that actually, yeah, you are good enough, because we're all human at the end of the day. We've all got the ability to learn. We've all got the ability to educate ourselves. None of us are any different from each other. We've all started from somewhere.
Can I take you back, though, to that moment that you just described at the start of that answer, Harpreet, where you're talking about you've risen through the ranks in banking, you're the bank manager at 23, you've been identified as only one of 4 leaders in the country on this programme. So I imagine that you're earning a healthy salary there, you're starting to get rewards and bonuses for what you're doing. So if we imagine you're at that place and then what you're describing is you're going to jump off that cliff into a place where you don't know if there's a safety net. You're not going to pay yourself for 12 months. You and your sister are going to open a waffle stall. I can imagine that some people around you were thinking, that's reckless.
Oh, yeah.
So it's great to have a passion, but it's reckless what you're doing. So would you tell us, and this is for people listening to this, about your decision-making criteria to take that leap?
I completely appreciate what you're saying there. And I often in my head, I have thought in the past, like, do people think I'm reckless? Like, is she really spontaneous or is she just crazy? For me, when I'm making a decision, and I know I'm known for making really, really quick decisions, because for me, the alternative is worse. So again, going back to like when you're younger, you don't have extra responsibilities. I didn't need to think of a mortgage or children or dependents or anything that would happen negatively if it didn't work out. So I do think it depends on your situation and your personal circumstances as to how much of a risk that you can take. But for me, if I did not take that step, well, then the alternative's worse, because I'd be left there wondering, oh, if I set up a business or if I took that risk, what could I have achieved? And actually, if you just go and do it and it doesn't work out, worst case scenario, cool, like, what have you actually lost there? It's a slight dent in your ego, but go and get another job, because money's going to come and go. We all lose money. We all earn money. And I don't believe that should be the biggest driving factor when you're making decisions. So I had nothing to lose.
Brilliant. Okay. So like when we had Grace Beverley on this podcast as an entrepreneur, she spoke about the benefits of the side hustle as advice to entrepreneurs, of maybe just start it small, do it at weekends and evenings. Was that ever an option for you?
That was the actual intention at first. So I had a great thing going on with HSBC. I was branch manager in Oldham in Manchester and wanted to have a side hustle. And actually I dabbled with a few ideas. I'd imported bags from India at one point. Thought, we'll have a little cute bag business. And I tried to learn how to do women's nails and thought, great, I'll set up a little nail salon. And none of them stuck. And then the desserts one kind of kept growing. And my sister had just graduated from uni. I had my job in the bank, and we thought we could potentially do this on the side. Let's set it up, get it going, and we'll pop staff in. And a lot of people manage to have a side hustle, and that's fantastic. You know, it's great to have multiple streams of income, 100%. But when we started growing the dessert business, we realized we don't actually want this as a side hustle. I really want to grow this as a company. I don't want to stand in the waffle shop myself for the next 30 years. I want to grow it as a concept. So to be able to do that, sometimes you have to make the decision and the leap. Okay, shall I just go full force, see how it goes? Then maybe I extract myself, or I can carry on, or I'll assess it when we get there. Because I think it's very, very important to have a plan, 100%. But I think sometimes people can get fixated on a long-term plan. Let's think of what we're doing in 1 year's time, 3 years, 5 years. The world might have completely changed by then. There might be a global pandemic that forces everyone to close down. So actually, it's good to have those long-term goals, but sometimes you have to take baby steps to get there. And yes, it was actually intended to be a side hustle, but then we realized we were having way too much fun and we wanted it to have the best start possible. And we didn't believe at the time that we could do that by just doing it half and half, because the job at the bank was intense. It was long hours. And I didn't really, really enjoy it at the time. I'd kind of wanted to move on. So I thought, okay, let's just do this. And I actually remember driving home from work one day, and my mum and sister were sat there with coffee and cake, as we always used to have when I got home. And I literally very dramatically chucked my handbag. I don't know why I did this. Chucked my handbag. I was like, guess what? I'm going to quit. And they just stood up and they were like, what? And they loved it because it was exciting. You get a bit of a thrill from it. You know, when you take that risk and you get that adrenaline rush, it's like, are we really going to do this? It could go all wrong, you know. It's like, yeah, but so what? We're still going to be here. So
I get the sense that you enjoy that, though.
Yeah, I do. I absolutely. I'm quite a spontaneous person, and I like doing things that give you that adrenaline rush. I like pressure, very high pressure. That's where I thrive best.
But as you've just said, you know, you had that conversation with yourself. What's the worst that can happen? And I think that can be a really powerful thing to say to
Yeah.
yourself, right, imagine a situation. What's the single worst thing that can happen in that situation? If I can handle that,
Yeah.
then I should make the decision and I should go for it. And I love a conversation like this where we're talking about big belief, big ambition,
Yeah.
but you're marrying it up with real bold, brave decision making. Because I think there are so many people walking around that have the big idea, have the dream, but they don't yet have the courage to make the call that is going to potentially be a disaster, but could be incredible. So let's talk about long-term planning. Susie Marr joined us on this podcast. She was only the runner-up on The Apprentice, obviously, Harpreet. But she's gone on to
amazing.
do amazing
She's
things
amazing.
with Trophic. And she spoke to us about infinite purpose. So
Yeah.
it's your purpose, but it has no end. And the nice thing about this, you're saying you can have big goals, but then the world may have shifted. So you have small goals. The great thing about an infinite purpose is that it's a big goal, but it also has no end. So it's always there. So ours for this podcast is reach more people around the world every single day to get them closer to high performance. So none of those things we can ever reach, which I love. What would you say is your infinite purpose? What is the thing you really want to do that has no end?
I love the whole infinite purpose thing, by the way, and I did listen to that podcast, and it actually made me feel a lot better about my own goals. I can honestly say that I have lots of goals that I set all the time, both personally and professionally. But my ultimate life goal, I don't know if this is going to sound embarrassing, is simply to have a content, happy life. Yeah. And that just means being true to yourself. And if that means being successful in business, or if that means quitting and running off into the jungle and whatever it is for other people, do what makes you happy. And for me, I am the type of person where my goalposts have really changed as time has gone on. Sometimes you change your mind. Sometimes your vision changes. Sometimes the world forces you to change where you see yourself. External factors or circumstances beyond your control happen. And I think that's where maybe people fall into that trap that negativity trap where things aren't going the way that they thought that they would. Well, then just change your goalposts and just change your thought process around it.
Which makes perfect sense, but tell us how to do that and how do you do that?
Do you allow negative thoughts?
No.
At all? So do you have a thought in your head, what if the business goes under? What if I fall out with my sister? What? None of that?
Then what? What's going to happen? What is the worst that can happen? I know this sounds so bad, but honestly, sometimes the thought that crops up into my head where I'm like, is anyone going to die? No? Okay, let's do it. Just give it a go. I don't think I would ever fall out with my sister. That's not something that ever concerns me, because I think sometimes in life you have people that they've got your back and you've got theirs, and actually there's nothing that they could do that it'd be like, okay, if there's something that she needs to do that I don't understand, she must have done it for a reason that's right for her. So that's never fazed me. And if the business went under or I had that thought, well, then actually I just go into problem solving mode. And I think bringing me on to what I believe enables me to perform at what I believe is a high level is constantly troubleshooting and constantly problem solving. So let's say something crops up and it's an issue. I don't know, there's a maintenance issue or there's a customer complaint or one of my staff members are unhappy. I don't let my defense mechanism kick in. I really stop myself from doing that. I won't get offended, and I won't let potentially what's happened cloud my judgment of what should or could happen next. So instead of going into defense mode and thinking, oh, well, why are they behaving like that? And I did everything I could. Forget that. What could I have done differently to influence this situation in a more positive way or the way that I wanted? So I almost do this thing of, I don't want to use the word blame, but I will instantly come back on myself and say, okay, well, what did you do wrong, Harpreet?
So give us an example then of where you've applied this.
Okay, give me a second.
I like this. While you're thinking, obviously we talk a lot on the podcast about exactly what Harpreet is describing here, which is 100% responsibility.
Yeah.
And what we say to people often, they say, well, how do we do it? We're like, well, for 7 days, just for 7 days, take 100% responsibility for every facet of your life.
Yeah.
Including colleagues that are not pulling their weight at work. We'll walk over and speak to them.
100%.
Or do their work for them and then have a conversation with them. But it's about marrying 100% responsibility with empathy. And what we often say to people is, just imagine that person's having a really hard day. They've had some difficult news.
That's exactly what I do.
They're struggling with a mental health problem. There's all kinds of things. If you approach them with an opinion, your opinion of their world, where you know probably 10% of what's actually happening in their lives, all you see is them in the shop or them at work, you're making up the other 90%. And you may well and most likely will make it up wrong. Instead, approach with empathy and just think, I'm really just going to believe that you're doing your best. You care about me. I care about you. Let's approach it together in a really positive manner. I'll take total responsibility for whether this works or fails. And I can't see that will ever be a problem. So if you've got a moment where you think, I had to delve into that.
See, this crops up all the time for me, because exactly what you're saying is what I try and do all the time. And I've really been practicing something called like assuming just positive intent all the time. So if someone is being rude to me, or I believe they're being rude, but actually they're probably just having a bad day and they might not even subconsciously realize what they're doing, instead of me getting defensive or taking offense, I'm not going to change my front or my personality based on what you're doing. And I'm actually going to positively influence you. And we're all going to end up having an amazing day. And I'm much more likely, if I need something from you, I'm probably going to get what I need from you. And you're going to get what you need from me, if we can actually just, let's be positive about it. Let's not offend each other. And I'm going to assume that you're trying to say something to me, but it's just coming out the wrong way, rather than you're actively being rude to me.
Because it is about your response to what they're saying. You imagine if I swear at you, you'll take offence because it's offensive, but you're taking offence because you're adding on why I'm swearing, what's happening. If you're walking down the road today and someone swears at you in Portuguese and you don't understand, they've still sworn at you.
Yeah.
But you've probably turned around and had a laugh and said, sorry, I don't speak Portuguese.
Exactly.
And you've carried on walking. The offence is still there from the other person. The reaction is entirely on you.
100%. And do you know who does this really well is Russell Brand. He's really good at it. I think there's a very famous interview where there are a number of interviewers being like actively rude to him, but he pretends it's not happening, or he knows it's happening, but his response is even better and they keep coming at him, but there's no way that you can touch that person. Really silly example. I don't know if it'll be relevant, but yeah, obviously I'm on Instagram now, I'm on social media. A lot of people want to, learn about my journey with the business, but also have a little bit of a snippet of Harpreet and her life. And I think I put something on the other day about my naturally curly hair. I said, what do you guys prefer? Just something cute and girly, which is usually the opposite of what I am. I'm very business focused. And I thought, okay, I need to give people like a little bit of me. Loads of people are pressing the button like, yeah, curly hair Harps. And this one lady replied and said, do you know what? Who gives a F? So I don't really usually respond, and it just bounces off my back. It's like, okay, cool. Like, she's obviously having a bad day. But I decided to reply to her, and I screenshotted the number of people that had responded and said, well, actually, Rosie, over 2,000 people do care. You have a great day. And a little smile. And then she put a bit of an essay and said, well, I expected more from you. I was supporting you on The Apprentice. You don't need to put these silly things out there. I expect better from you. And all I put was, again, instead of rising to it and saying, well, I can do what I want, I just said, well, Instagram is for a little bit of fun. It's for me to express myself. Sometimes that's about my business and sometimes that's just a little bit about me. But thank you so much for the support. Obviously, she completely reversed what she said, backtracked. She gave me an apology. She said, you know what, I'm really sorry for being snippy. And you know what, your curly hair looks amazing. Thank you so much. So just a small example of, you don't need to take offense to what people are saying to you. Just bounce it back and you can positively impact their day too.
So can I fast forward then? Because what you're describing sounds fantastic. Mm-hmm. But then you've just come through a TV series that is famed for the opposite of that kind of behaviour, sort of like acerbic remarks, infighting, throwing each other under a bus. How did you cope on The Apprentice with like taking that mindset into an environment that sounds like it thrives on the opposite of that?
I think that mindset is ultimately what got me through to the end and got me the win. There weren't too many tasks that I lost. I think I lost 2 times out of 10 tasks. So luckily I was saved from the boardroom and I didn't have to stab anyone in the back. But for me, having that mentality, even when we're on task, I kind of removed it from my mind that we were competitors and that actually people could be here manipulating or playing a game or trying to say things to then get a rise out of you so they can bring it up in the boardroom. I completely removed that from my mind, from my mentality, and I laser focused on winning every single task. So for me, it was nothing to do with what other people are doing, what other characters are doing, whether they stab me in the back, whether they don't. For me, it was just pure business and business skill. And if that meant I had to then assess and point out in the boardroom what I feel someone could have potentially done better, from my opinion, that's fine. That's a completely professional thing to do.
So do you put your empathetic, assume best intent head aside for those moments where you have to point out that someone has not done a very good job? But obviously with the best intentions, they're doing their best, they're on the show as well, they're probably nervous and anxious.
Not at all. I think I've always got that switched on in me.
Yeah.
So I definitely believe you can completely be direct and say exactly what you think without being offensive. For example, I do believe this person tried their best, and I'm not sure I could have done any better in this situation. However, I do feel that X, Y, and Z potentially led us to fail the task. That's pointing out exactly what they've done wrong without being an X, Y, Z about it. You can still say your point without being offensive. And I think maybe sometimes people can struggle with that. And either someone said it in the wrong way or the wrong tone, or it's been assumed and taken in the wrong tone. You can still be direct, say what you want to say. Get to the point. Be nice about it. You can still be nice and be direct.
Yeah. Can we talk about Alan Sugar?
Of course.
Lord Sugar.
Lord Sugar himself.
I'd love to know why you find him so inspirational. And I would also love to know the things he said, the things he's done that you've already learned from in the time that you've been around him.
So I've grown up watching The Apprentice. Huge fan of the show. Always wanted to give it a go and think, I can do these tasks. I can, prove myself to Lord Sugar. I really like the fact that he's direct. He doesn't fluff around things. He's a very sure person. He's a very confident person. He's a businessman, a billionaire, and he's built that all from scratch himself. So he explains his journey a lot in he's got a few books, but in his book that I read, you can follow his journey, understand how he's done it. And he's been very unapologetic about it. And again, going back to goals, set your goal and just go get it. Don't let anything get in your way. And I think that's what I find quite inspiring about him. But going through the Apprentice journey and the journey after the Apprentice, I think what I've probably learnt most about Lord Sugar is, and gained confidence with my own skill with, is, again, just being completely, almost shameless about what you're trying to do or what you want to achieve and how you need to get there. So if you want something, say it, because people can't read minds. If you want something at a cheaper price, say it. If you expect a better customer service, say it. Don't let it wind up inside you and then it all kind of explodes later, or you're on a power trip, or, you save it and bank it and think, oh, we'll bring it up. Say it in the moment, get it out, and people can just quickly learn, move on, grow in confidence. Don't worry about the person taking offense, because if you position it the right way and they respect you, they've got a choice whether to listen or not. And I think that's given me the confidence for my own management style, because going on The Apprentice was quite shocking for me to watch back, because I didn't realise that was my style at all. Because you never watch yourself back, do you? You go about your job and about your day, and you assume in your head that you're coming across a certain way. You don't realise fully unless you're actually watching yourself back on camera. You're like, wow, okay.
So what was it that you perceived yourself as when you watched yourself back on the TV?
I don't think I quite realised how laser focused I am. So this is what's actually giving me the confidence, and I love it because it's made me more confident about achieving my goals. I believe I'm quite a balanced person, but I didn't realize that this sense of urgency that I create when I want to get something done, and how I can almost command that from everyone else if we're trying to achieve a task or a goal. And I do believe that's what helped my team win week after week and got me through to the end. Is because what I've noticed about myself is I try not to leave any stone unturned, and it's about taking 100% responsibility. So if I'm in a team or I'm on my own, regardless, I will take the whole task almost upon myself, and then utilize the team, or not delegate, but think of how we can work as a team to achieve that common goal. I try not to think about my individual performance. I only think about the goal and how we can get there, and just have that constant winning mentality and fixate on the end result. Whether it's me that contributed in this area, whether it's someone else, whether you go pitch, whether I do it, let's all use our best skills to get the win rather than me proving myself to anybody.
See, I mean, that sounds like a great example of that famous quote that it's amazing what you can achieve if you don't care who gets the credit, you know, and that's what you're describing. And yet I'm just interested in how you balanced it up on a programme where there are them people that are demanding the credit.
And you also need to get the credit.
I'd
to
have
win
to
the
say,
show. Like, you know.
It's a really weird situation because on task, you are a team. You have to be a team player. You need your teammates to win, just like you do in any situation or any business. You have a team around you. And I always say this, but anyone saying that they are 100% self-made by themselves, it's not true. There's always a team around you. There's always a support network around the most successful people or people that have helped them along their journey. You can't do everything by yourself to achieve the most amazing results. Whether it's using someone else's knowledge or their help, support, whatever it is, we can only achieve amazing results if we lean on each other. I personally believe that I wouldn't have got to where I am without an amazing team around me. My sister's involved in the business. I have an amazing team. If they weren't there at the waffle shop, well, I wouldn't have been able to go on the Apprentice and win an investment. So there's always other people involved. But then, yeah, it is pretty weird because you're then going to the boardroom and you have to say, me, like, this is what I did. And I love pointing out what I do and what I contribute to a task. So it is quite a weird situation and you have to get that right balance. But I honestly had the most amazing experience. It was awesome. And it taught me to be able to get that balance of team and individual. And I think if you're clever about it, you really can do both.
And I know it's early days. What would you say so far is the single best piece of advice that you've heard from Sir Alan, either directly to you and your sister, to someone else that was said as an aside that you heard and thought, yes, I love that?
So I got roasted a little bit. I think the one time that I actually took a little bit of a step back was on a task where we lost for the first time. So I had this winning streak, and then we lost a task where I stepped back a little bit from jumping in on a negotiation. I didn't realise that Lord Sugar and his team thought I was a good negotiator, but they'd observed me negotiating well on a previous task. But I was just doing my thing, and like I say, it didn't really bother me who gets the credit. Let's get the job done. But in this particular moment, I wanted to allow this other person to, them flourish and them have their moment and let them negotiate, because yes, we all need to compete, but they'd made it clear that they wanted to lead that. And I didn't feel that I could have done any better at that stage, or I could have jumped in. But then I got really told off for it in the boardroom, and they're like, you're good at negotiation, why didn't you do it? And for me, it just taught me that I'm always in the driving seat. Like I hardly ever take a back seat. And it taught me the minute that you take your foot off the pedal and you don't put yourself forward for something, I don't want to say this is what happens, but it's then highlighted. And if it goes wrong, it's like, well, why didn't you step forward? Why didn't you put yourself out there? And why didn't you take the risk? So for me, it's just, again, don't just be unapologetic. And if you believe this, anything that you can do, even if it's just the one word, the one sentence, the one nugget, just jump in there and always push yourself forward if you believe it will get you the result. Don't be shy. Don't be nervous. Just go for it.
And how does this relate to other experiences in your life where you've lost? Because looking at it from the outside, I think there's people that would see that you've had a pretty linear progression from university, the bank, setting up the business with your sister, going on the Apprentice, where ultimately you've ended up winning on each of those occasions. But what about the occasions that we don't see, that we don't necessarily know about, where you've come away licking your wounds, feeling that you've come off second best? How have you handled those experiences, Harpreet?
Mm-hmm. So absolutely, there's no way that my success or where I am today has been a linear route. setting up the business has been really difficult, and you lose money at times, and you think, oh my gosh, like, why did we do that, or why did we go with that supplier when we should have asked this question? It's now resulted in this loss, or the sales are nowhere near where we pitched them in our mind to be, and we're now struggling. There's always a struggle. People only see like the surface of anything. For me, it just relates. I'm actually a huge believer in sort of manifestation, and I know there's a couple of like schools of thought around achieving your goals. You can either say, okay, visualize your goals, see it, believe it, and achieve it. So, set your goals, what you want to do, set a time scale, and set about how you're going to do it, all with the right intentions, have the right mentality, have the right attitude. Or there's another school of thought, which is see it, believe it, and receive it, which is more to do with the law of attraction and attracting what you believe should be in your life. And then you have to allow things to fall into place and for the universe to deliver to you. And this is where I sound all wacky. For me, because I am a believer in that side of things, and I do believe that what is meant for you will either happen or it won't. Again, it's not that it doesn't faze me when something doesn't go my way or what I wanted it to. I'll just go back to the positivity side of me and say, okay, well, maybe that wasn't lined up for me right now. Maybe that's not meant for me. Or do you know what? It might happen in a few months' time when I'm ready for it. Whether that's a business deal, whether that's something in my personal life, maybe that's not what's supposed to happen right now, and I'm supposed to take a different direction.
Oh, what's that phrase that you've used in the past? What's meant for you?
Oh, what's meant for you won't go by you.
Yeah.
But I think where I want to be really careful about this kind of conversation, I don't want people to hear this and think, great, I'm going to sit on the sofa.
No, you can't.
15 hours a day, watch crappy daytime TV and write down on a piece of paper, I want to manifest a Ferrari. Right?
No, it doesn't work like that.
Two things are not going to happen. I think we need to be really explicit to people that when you talk about manifestation, you're talking about a lifestyle. You're talking about a way of living where you marry up, I think, three crucial things. You marry up what you want. You marry that to total belief and absolute positivity that it's going to happen. Because what happens then is your behavior marries up with the positivity. So you want it, you're positive about it, you believe it's going to happen. Therefore, you wake up in the morning and you believe this great thing is only 6 months away. So what do? You go in the gym because you want to be ready for it. Then you pick up the phone to have a conversation with someone with that absolute belief that a great thing is going to happen. Because in your head, it's already happened. So you talked, let's say you want your business to be turning over £10 million a year. You're already talking like a person with a business with a £10 million turnover. So then the people you're talking to are going, this person's obviously got a successful business, the way they're talking, the way they're discussing expansion and growth. And then, well, lo and behold, what happens in 6 months' time? You're where you want to be. But it's because you believe. And because your behaviours followed the belief. I think we have to make that clear, right?
Yes. I'm not trying to promote any kind of weird witchcraftery or thing. Oh, whatever you pops in your mind, it'll be there tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. It's exactly what you just said. It's 100% total belief that it's there, it's going to happen. So you now need to prepare yourself for that to happen. So for example, in business, okay, I want to turn over 10 million. Hopefully one day I need to manifest that a little bit harder. But okay, let's now work backwards from that and let me set what sales targets would I need to achieve per month, per week, per day to get to that 10 million. And if this is what it looks like per day, what can I do with my sales team? What can I do to reduce my costs? And what steps can I take to be able to achieve that daily goal? And then it manifests into that bigger goal.
And break the daily goal down into, should I be eating that specific food? Should I be not going to the gym? Should I not bother calling that person who I don't really want to speak to, but I know they might be a good person to have a conversation with? You break it right down to right at the start of this conversation, world-class basics, daily habits, those small things, married to the big goal.
Yeah.
I just want people to understand that success can be an algorithm. If you follow certain specific behaviours, it can come your way.
Yes. I think obviously everyone knows me for being on The Apprentice. If I relate it to that as an example, when I decided to apply for The Apprentice, I 100% instilled it into my brain with absolutely zero doubt I was now going to be on The Apprentice. So I got my calendar. I worked out the dates that I would be in the house. This is the day that task 1 will happen. And this is way early on when I just filled out the application form because I needed to prepare for when I'm away and task 1, task 2. And I actually picked up my diary And honestly, funnily enough, I'd got to week 11, 12, worked out when the interviews would be, and worked out that, okay, this is when Lord Sugar will say to you, you're hired. And it's in my diary and I've kept it.
Did you get the date right?
I can't remember, I'll have to check. But I'd got the sequence right. But from there, what I did then, I thought, okay, so that interview's then. I'm now going to prepare for that one specifically. I'm going to like Google how many people have been on it before. I'm going to see what they did. What kind of like activities do I need to do to prime myself for that step? Now I'm going to go myself a really sick power suit because I need to look the bee's knees when I turn up and meet Lord Sugar. And you believe it so much and you plan for it. But I do also believe that, okay, if it didn't happen and if it doesn't happen, there is a reason for that. Like, it's okay, but guess what? You've at least made active steps in the right direction. So if you don't achieve 10 million as your target, well, guess what? You might achieve 6 or 7 or 8. And that's way better than what you started off at. So it's just, I think Stephen Bartlett spoke about this actually recently. Well, I saw something online where he says, if you can just improve things by 1% every single day, and it's just the smallest of things, well, over time, that's going to accumulate. And you're now, rather than worrying about that huge goal and how you're going to get there, you're now so many baby steps closer, and you can look back and think, well, I've actually made some progress.
And how do you encourage other people within your business to adopt this same mindset?
Mm-hmm. It's a tricky one because we all have different perspectives, different personalities. You know, with my business, it's a dessert business. I have a lot of like younger staff that join the company that are maybe part-time. So it really can be tricky. You know, we don't have a lot of head office roles where we sit there and we talk about mindset and things. It's very much a hands-on role. Come in, we serve customers. So for me, it's just constantly instilling positivity. You know, if we do get a bad review or sometimes you can't please everyone, but rather than saying that and saying to the team, it's okay, you know, we've had a disgruntled customer, I try and relate back to them and say, like, what could you have done differently? You might think that you gave perfect service, but was there a phrase that you said that you could have switched up that would have actually really helped influence the outcome? So I try and question things back to them and say, okay, put it on yourself. What could you do differently next time to avoid this in future? And hopefully it rubs off on them a little bit. We do have a really good team at OhSoYum.
And in the back of your mind, you know that it's 100% your responsibility if they don't deliver.
Absolutely, 100%. It is because, and it is really tricky because when you're, so we've been doing this for like 6 years now and it'll be coming up to 7 years. For the first 3 to 4 years, me and my sister were completely hands-on. And we actually didn't allow any extra help. We only had staff in on a Saturday and Sunday because we wanted to do everything ourselves. And I think that's really what's helped us because if you work your way from the ground up, then you understand every element of the business. But it is tricky because if you want to grow your business, you can't be everywhere at once and you have to be able to trust other people and give them some responsibility. But ultimately, if you're the head of the company, it all does spring back to you and it is on your shoulders at the end of it. So again, I only think that helps drive further high performance because if you continue bringing it back on yourself and you continue thinking, okay, let's work on this, let's get it better, let me train this set of managers and they can then feed through. No, it's never going to be 100% perfect, but at least it's going to be slightly better than if you don't try.
We're going to move on to our quickfire questions. But before we do, just one final thing. It's been such an empowering, uplifting, positive, go for it, it's all on you conversation, which is great.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important for people to realise that you're not just sitting here as someone who has tasted success from minute one to today. And whether it's in your personal life, your private life, your business life, what would you say is the lowest low point on this journey that you've learned from?
I think it can be a really, it can be quite a lonely journey when you're really like striving for the highest performance because you are at it and you are motoring on. And sometimes other people don't understand that. So whether it's your family or whether it's your friends, they don't understand, well, hang on, why are you working till midnight? Surely you're working too hard. And it's almost having to deal with that little bit of guilt and anxiety because that's what you want to do in that moment. That's your passion. You do also want to have great relationships with your family and your friends, but you can't do everything. You can't balance everything. And I think that's what I have really struggled with quite a few times in my life and in the past. where I don't have that balance. Because balance should really be, okay, have a gorgeous morning routine, do a bit of yoga, go to the gym, eat a delicious, nutritious breakfast, go to work, finish, and sit with your family in the evening. That sounds perfect. But it just really doesn't happen that way. And it can be really frustrating at times because you just think, why am I doing this? I just want a normal life. Like, please can I just go get a job 9 to 5 and I can switch off in the evening? But if you're not built that way, you're not going to enjoy that either. So you just have to accept, okay, I'm going to have to sacrifice something. Do I either go get myself a 9 to 5 and feel really unfulfilled as a person and I'm not being true to myself? Or am I just going to go chase this and I'll see my family and friends when I can and hopefully they'll understand, but I'm feeling really content. You have to find that, and often it really changes, and I know it's changing as I'm getting older. I would love to settle down and have children one day, but right now there's just no way I can think of that because work is my 100% focus. But I need to get better at balance. I want to go to the gym more. I want to eat better because I enjoy those things. It's just really hard to spin plates at all the plates at the same time.
You remind me of myself, in so many ways. Be totally honest, have you got any friends from school?
I do.
Do you?
I do,
That's
yeah.
interesting, because I would have thought you'd have been so single-minded on the work and the next step. And
Well,
things.
actually, truth be told, I lost connection with my group of friends from school for quite a long time because I was just
How many have you got?
so lazy.
I've got one.
You got one friend?
Because I was just...
One friend from school.
My mates, my mate, not one friend in the whole world.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't have loads because in my life has always been like I was all into when I was on CBBC and they were my mates. But then I got a job on Formula One and I had to give that 100%. So I was all in that. So you then lose connection. Then you go to football and you lose connection with the Formula One lot. And that's the way life is. And, I can't stand small talk, basically.
Oh, me either.
So like, when someone says, do you want to come for a night out? I'm like,
No.
I'd rather stay at home and write my plan for the next 6 months.
It's really hard though because, 100%.
Makes me sound sad, but...
That's me. And I think it's hard because there's not many people that are like-minded and really understand that. And they think that you're working too hard, but you're not. You're doing what you enjoy. But sometimes you do need friends. And when you want to go out, it's like, okay, I kind of need a friend now. I have, with many of my friends, almost lost connections at times. And there's been 6 months or 12 months where we just haven't spoke. But it's not because I don't care about them. It's just because I just feel like I'm wired a little bit differently. Like, I wish the absolute best for them and I hope they're living their best lives and I really care for them and I can't wait to see their journey. But for me personally, that doesn't mean touching base every 2 days, 3 days or going out every single week. I can't do that because that doesn't allow me to sustain my goals. So no, other people don't always understand it. But again, if we just take it on the chin and assume it with positive intent and we get it and we get why it looks weird to them, it's all good.
Would you do anything differently though?
No. I don't have any regrets. I'm the type of person that I am where I am because of everything that has happened. And I'm honestly so happy. I've never been in a position where I have been happier. I dreamt of going on the Apprentice. I dreamt of getting that investment and I've gone and done it as a result of my hard work, not because I'm lucky. I haven't been an overnight success. I've really worked hard at school, at university, in the workplace and on my business. So I do feel like I deserve to be in the position I am and I'm so excited for my future. And if I regretted anything or did anything differently, I might not be sat here. Of course, there's times where it's like, oh, I wish I did that or I wish I went to that Drake concert that I missed because I was working instead, Of course, but guess what? I've got so many years ahead of me where I can now do that and I'm in a better position and I know what I enjoy now.
Brilliant. Love the clarity. Right. Quick fire questions. The 3 non-negotiable behaviours that you, your sister and all the people around you have to buy into. What are your 3 key pillars?
I think I've probably touched on a lot of these throughout these conversations, but to summarise, 1 is winning mentality. No doubt, failure is not an option. If it's not there, then it can't happen. So you will win and you will reach your goal, full stop. Or close. 2 is problem solve. Please don't complain about the same thing over and over again. Think of a solution. I'm not saying that it will always be the right one, but test one. And if it doesn't work, test again. There's this saying where if you hear someone asking 2 to 3 people for advice, they're looking for advice. If they ask for more than that more than 3 people, they're actually looking for attention. They don't want help. They just want to talk about it. And that bugs me. Like, if you want to change something about your life or a situation, there are plenty of solutions. Just test one. So always troubleshoot and find a solution to your problem. And I would say the third one is I honestly think it's just setting goals, because if you don't have a destination, where are you going? You're just on this pointless journey. And I'm not saying that you have to have one big specific goal. It does not have to be a big one. But I would highly recommend, if you want to get the most out of your life and really achieve maximum success at a high performance level, write down exactly what you want or what you think you want. Think about how you're going to get there and get cracking, get on with it. Don't procrastinate. Just go for it and take that risk.
If you could go back to one moment of your life, what would it be and why?
When I was younger, when I was about 18, 19, I really wanted to move to London. I really wanted to get a job in the city. And I didn't, because I let external factors really hold me back. A little bit to do with like my background and kind of like just not having the opportunity to go out and explore. And I kind of put a dampener on my own goals. Thought, okay, never mind, I'll just do this instead. And actually, if I could go back, or I could speak to any young person out there, and you have any dreams, go and get them. Go and take the risk. If you want to go move to London, if you want to go travel, if you want to just go and work in the chippy down the road, go and do it, and go and speak to people. I am so in awe of young people that reach out to me and say, oh, wow, can you give me a bit of advice on this? Or I see posts on LinkedIn where young people are sharing about their journey. I never had that confidence back then. I never put myself out there. And if I did that back then, like, where would I actually be now? I'd probably like be 5 miles, 10 miles ahead. So if I could go back to a time in my life, it would just be, as a young person, put yourself out there, go take that risk whilst you can and whilst you haven't got the extra responsibilities.
How important is legacy to you?
I do believe that as human beings, if we're here, like, we need to make a positive impact on each other. Like, we're here, yes, I know we talk about success a lot and about high performance and achieving your goals, but actually we are all just human beings on a planet. Can we have a good time at the same time? And for me, I would love my legacy to be, like, for me personally, I want to inspire people to go and live out your dreams and go and be happy. There are so many pressures on us to be successful, to perform at a high level, to go and be the best at what you possibly can be. And that's all fine and that's great, but you really should be happy and true to yourself. And if that's binging on Netflix for 5 hours and eating a pizza, then go do that. But I would love my legacy to be literally being happy and being the best version of myself and having an amazing time.
What advice would you give to a teenage Harpreet just starting out?
The advice that I would give to teenagers is, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on young people from an education perspective, and also to pick a career and then you get funneled down that route. So if I was to go back, I don't think I would have actually gone to university. I would have done an apprenticeship instead, because that would give me some qualifications and expose me to the world of work. My personal is what I would do. I just feel there's a lot of pressure on young people, and I feel like this with my niece who's 14 at the moment. I don't know what to do, because forever is a very long time and career sounds like for the rest of your life. And I would just say to young people, you need to pick something that you enjoy for now, or you think you might be good at. Pick your natural flair. There's a lot of pressure on social media now, okay? Everyone wants to be the best in the gym, or let's be a makeup artist, or let's be a content creator. And young people need to realize there's a lot of smoke and mirrors online. It's not actually real. It's a digital world, and we need to use it as a tool. And it's a fantastic tool to promote your business or whatever you're interested in. And we couldn't live without it now, but you have to realize there's some hard graft that goes behind every single profession, and you can't suddenly be amazing at something. It takes hard work. So whatever you want to do, try not to worry too much about 20, 30, 40 years time. Pick something you enjoy now and you think you might be good at, and go and dabble in it and go and shadow someone that does it day in, day out. See what hard work goes behind it and see if you're up for it.
Great. And your final message for people listening to this, which is your sort of one guiding light, your North Star for high performance. What would you like your departing message to be for the people that have sat and listened to this conversation, to leave are ringing in their ears?
I think one of my biggest strengths, I believe, is respecting myself, investing in myself, and educating myself. And I really believe that people should take out the time to, whether it's working on your goals, reflecting, go to the gym, you need to make sure that you feel good inside and outside, internally and externally. They're both just equally as important. If you're not going to put the best front on, if you're not going to be confident every single day and accept that you're doing the best that you can, you don't need to compare yourself to anyone else, be the best version of you, but take active steps to do that and learn and progress, because all the tools are out there. We've all got YouTube, there's mentors, there's family, there's support networks. If you don't take the time to do that, you are going to be stuck, and you're then going to fall into victim behavior. So I would definitely say take the time to invest in yourself, be confident, and have respect for yourself, because if you don't, no one else is going to.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think
you.
it's so important to have a message like this given to people where it is a mixture of self-belief, hard work, but also trying to be a good person at the same time. And we know the way the world is, right? If you're a young man sitting there, people go, oh, I love the confidence. When you're a young woman sitting there, we know there are going to be people watching this saying, oh, bit overconfident, bit arrogant, because that's the world that we live in. And I just love the fact that someone like you is sharing a message like this that, you know, our daughters can hear and be empowered by and be inspired by. And I think that the message at the end there, that it's all there for you, is a great one, because it is all there for everybody. And it's a case of finding it, going for it, and most importantly of all, as you've described, believing that it will be a positive outcome.
Thank you. And just touching on labels there, you're absolutely right. I feel like when men are confident, you know, it's amazing, it's assertive. And when a woman is, you do get comments of, wow, you know, she's full of herself. But I can honestly say, not a single one of those comments touches me, because how would that affect my performance or my outcome or my life? It doesn't. You don't need to worry about what other people are saying or have negative thoughts. You do you, go be the best version of you, and you don't need to worry about what other people think.
Please hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, give us a thumbs up, leave a review, but somehow get involved with the High Performance Podcast and become part of our growing community. Thanks for being part of the adventure.